Hey y'all, welcome to Slugline 101. Alright, I want to do a couple of sessions here on the Slugline. I see a lot of mistakes coming from newer writers on constructing their Sluglines, and I want to help out with that. So, the Slugline obviously begins at the beginning of each scene, each new camera setup, each new location, and it serves a specific purpose, both to guide the reader as well as on the production side. They're always written in all caps, and they're comprised of three different parts. You have the interior or exterior, whether it's inside or outside of a location. You have the location name itself, and then you have the day or night. What time of day does it occur? And there's some specifics with each of those that we're going to be going over in a minute. But remember that it doesn't matter if it's bolded, italicized, or underlined. I try to keep it as clean as possible. Some people just like a simple bold to make it pop a little bit more. That's fine. Just make sure that you remain consistent. All right, stay tuned for more tips on the Slugline. All right, continuing on, talking about Slugline. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the camera setup, the interior or the exterior. This is where the action is taking place. If it's inside of a building or inside of a structure of any kind, that's obviously an interior shot. If it's outside where there's sky up above your head, that's obviously exterior. Sometimes people get a little confused about things like cars. If a car is driving around and your scene involves dialogue of people talking inside of a car, that's usually considered interior car. Don't get too caught up on that, but just make it consistent and clear, all right? And this is only interior or exterior. There's no other identifier that goes here at the beginning of the scene. All right, next we're going to be talking about locations. All right, the second part of our Slugline is location. And that's where we have the name of the specific location where the scene is taking place. So in this instance, we have house. Now, occasionally, if you have a lot of different places inside of a specific location, you can do a secondary location. So you might have a scene in the house and kitchen. So that's fine to do if you give it a secondary location to try and make it clear. If you have a lot of things taking place like in an apartment building, you might have a secondary location of a specific apartment number, but just make sure that those locations are always consistent. If you call something John's house in one scene and then just house in another, but they're really the same location, that's going to cause problems. So absolutely make sure that all of your scenes have the exact same name every single time. All right. Next, we're going to be talking about time of day. All right. Now on to the final part of our Slugline, and that's the time of day indicator. And that's usually identified by either day or night. Now, I see a lot of people come up with different things. They might want to put things like midnight, dawn, dusk, or whatever. That doesn't really help the lighting department. If you need to be specific about exactly what time it is, then go ahead and put that in your action. It doesn't really belong here. It doesn't help. I also see a lot of people coming up with things like continuous, later, same as. That doesn't really help either because, as you know, films are not filmed sequentially. They're shot out of sequence. And so if you don't happen to have that scene in front of you on that particular day to refer to, you may not know what time of day that thing's being shot at. So be consistent, be clear, always put day or night. It just makes it a lot simpler. All right, y'all, we got a couple of exceptions to the standard Slugline rules. One of those exceptions is if your action takes place in space. We do not put a day or night indicator on there because there's no significant difference in day or night when you're in outer space. So you would simply leave that blank. Another thing is if your film jumps around in time and you don't necessarily want to superimpose the date or the year on the screen, you can add it to the end of your Slugline. Now you'll have to make sure that your audience understands that you've made that jump, whether it's something like costuming and technology that they actually see on screen, or maybe you've done something with the coloring as far as how it's finally viewed. To do a sepia tone or something like that is a common, or desaturated. That's a common thing that's done with time jumps. But you can simply add the year or the date at the end of your Slugline to avoid superimposing the date on the screen. All right, we got another variation on the Slugline, and this is what you can use when you're writing quick action. So, for instance, like a battle scene. So what we can do is that we can set up the scene with the normal Slugline, like we got exterior, collage, and day, and then we have the action of what's going on, setting up the scene as a whole, and then we can use a shortened version of the Slugline to guide the reader towards what's being focused on this particular part. So we'll just go in all caps, Captain Grant, and we'll describe an action that he's doing. Then we go to Campbell, something that he's doing. the English canon, something that they're doing. It's a very quick and efficient way that you can guide the reader's mind, their mind's eye, through these different sequences without bogging it all down. So use that to your advantage when you're writing scenes that have a lot of quick action.